Hello everyone, a very pleasant day to you. Senate passes 2026 through 2028 MTEF. President Tinubu set to present 54.4 trillion naira budget. Reps probe detention of Nigerian military aircraft personnel in Burkina Faso. And Peter Obi blames leadership failure as report says over 80 million Nigerian youths are unemployed. A very good day to you and welcome to First Next News Port Harcourt. I am Becky. Also, now the news in details. The Senate has passed the 2026 to 2028 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, MTEF, and Fiscal Strategy paper, paving the way for President Bola Tinubu to present the 2026 appropriation bill estimated at 54.4 trillion naira later this week. The passage followed the consideration and debate of a report presented by the chairman of the Senate Committee of Finance, Senator Sani Musa, during plenary. Announcing the approval, Senate President Godswill Akpabio described the MTEF as a statutory requirement that must precede the presentation of the national budget, stressing that it does not represent the final position of the legislature. He explained that the passage of the framework would enable the National Assembly to receive the 2026 budget proposal between now and Thursday, adding that the document remains open to review once the full budget is formally laid before lawmakers. Akpabio expressed optimism that a projection contained in the MTEF would be realistic enough to support the effective implementation of the federal government's renewed hope agenda. Moving on, the House of Representatives has resolved to meet with senior government officials in the Ministries of Defense and Foreign Affairs over the country's detained aircraft and personnel in Burkina Faso. The decision of the House to intervene followed the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance moved by Ekiti lawmaker Mr. Rufus Ojawo. The lawmakers urged the President Bola Tinubu-led government to make use of the Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS and African Union frameworks to facilitate cooperation, mutual understanding, and the expeditious clearance of the aircraft and detained military personnel. They also urged the Office of the National Security Advisor to coordinate interagency communication to ensure that national security considerations are addressed without escalation. Moving on, the federal government has disclosed plans to improve reading culture and reduce illiteracy levels among children living in internally displaced persons IDP camps across the country. This was disclosed by the Director for IDPs at the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Fatima Maman Daura, during the launch of 2 books to commemorate the 16 days of activism and to restore the hope of the girl child in northeast Nigeria. She also disclosed plans to distribute the book authored by Teresa Ahmed to children in IDP camps as part of measures to improve reading culture. The author of the book, Mrs. Teresa Ahmed, said she met all the requirements to attract children's attention. On the importance of reading, she said, media houses should also help encourage children to read by coming up with jingles or columns in the newspapers because reading helps from the mind. Moving on, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 election, Peter Obi, has described Nigerians' worsening youth unemployment crisis as a clear failure of leadership, citing a new report that places over 80 million young Nigerians out of work. Obi made the remarks via a post on X, reacting to findings from an ActionAid/Plan International report, which, according to him, shows that Nigeria currently has the highest number of unemployed youth globally due to its population size and weak economic direction. The former Anambra State governor argued that widespread youth joblessness should not be blamed on young people themselves, insisting that governance failures are to the root of the problem. Obi further stressed that Nigeria's demographic structure makes the situation more alarming, noting that young people make up the majority of the population. He criticized what he described as misplaced government priorities, accusing leaders neglecting productive investments. Moving on, the Nigerian Labour Congress has warned that any attempt to interfere with today's National Day of Protest and mourning could spark a nationwide indefinite strike. Acting General Secretary Benson Opa said in a statement that the union has received intelligence suggesting that unscrupulous agencies and desperate political hiring might try to infiltrate or violently disrupt demonstrations. Opa added that harming even a single worker or citizen would trigger an immediate and indefinite shutdown across all sectors of the economy. The union urged all workers, students, traders, and citizens to remain disciplined, peaceful, and united. The NLC also called on the police, who have been informed of the protest, to protect citizens' democratic right to assemble and express their grievances. Moving on, the Nigerian police force head insisted that there was no court order that restrained the force from enforcing the tinted glass permit as had been speculated. The force public relations officer CSP Benjamin Hundeyi told Newsben in Abuja that the order being talked about was to maintain the status quo on the issue. He said the status quo at the time the order was made was the enforcement of the policy. He said the Inspector General Police IGP Mr. Kayode Betokun at a meeting with a delegation from the Nigerian Bar Association NBA decided to follow the path of care, listening and being concerned. He said the statement issued at that time said the suspension was to give Nigerians from to regularize their documentation and to also await the outcome of the court. Hundeyi said the court's case had been dragging on and that criminal elements had been using the tinted vehicles to perpetrate crime. Moving on to the foreign news, U.S. President Donald Trump has said he is ordering a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers going into and out of Venezuela. In a post on social, President Trump said Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro's government had been designated to a foreign terrorist organization and accused it of stealing U.S. assets, as well as terrorism, drug smuggling, and human trafficking. His remarks came a week after the U.S. seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. In a statement, Venezuela's government said it rejected Trump's grotesque threat. In his post, Trump said Venezuela was completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. He added that it will only get bigger and be like nothing they have ever seen before. The Trump administration has repeatedly accused Venezuela of drug smuggling, and since September, the U.S. military has killed at least 90 people in strikes on boats. It alleged were carrying fentanyl and other illegal drugs to the U.S. That's all in the news this hour. I am Becky Osar. Many thanks for watching. Bye for now.